Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this 146th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include our weekly guest visit with Brandon Lang. We'll be talking about the NFL and college football games coming up this weekend. The rest of the show will all be from the archives. Dug up an old hard drive, found some great classic interviews, thought we would share those with you today, including one from 2017 with none other than Paula Deen. We also visit with Norman Lear about the American Masters documentary on PBS, Norman Lear, Just Another Version of You. We also visit with rock artist Meatloaf about his album Braver Than We Are. We also visited with Ken Jeong about Dr. Ken, that came from March of 2016. And also share one of my bucket list interviews with our good friend Charlie Daniels. This interview from 2016, we talked about his album Nighthawk, as well as his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and, of course, share with your friends. Now, we changed the clocks this weekend, which means it's going to start getting darker earlier. And for a lot of people, it also means more nighttime snacking. And according to a new survey, 79% of Americans say their cravings for snacks increase when it gets dark earlier. And 9 out of 10 of us snack between dinner and going to bed. And here are the 5 foods we crave the most: ice cream, cookies, chips, popcorn, and candy. Every week we visit with our good friend, sports picker extraordinaire, and also podcast host, the best damn sports betting podcast, period. We've got Brandon Lang on the line. And Brandon, always great to visit with you, sir.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here looking over the Rams in Houston from last week and looking at the bad beat of a lifetime. I just can't get over it. Rams were minus 16.5, and at the start of the fourth quarter, they're up 38-0. You're thinking, no problem, wait to cash your ticket, good to go. And then literally with 2 seconds to go, so it's fourth quarter, 8 minutes to go, 38-0. Texans score touchdown. Rams go 3 and out, take 1:45 off the clock. Houston gets the ball on their own 38. 4 plays later, a 45-yard touchdown pass. Extra point good, 38-14. Then they onside kick. They get it, 5 minutes to go. Go down and drive and score second and goal at the 9 with 2:35 to go. Go for 2, get it. And the final score, 38-22. And the Texans cover the 16.5. How you doing? I mean, unbelievable. That, and then Clemson returns a fumble for a touchdown with no time on the clock to cover the number against Florida State. I mean, it's just stuff that goes on in these games. And my job, you just shake your head and say, wow, because you can't make this stuff up, man. You just can't. Unbelievable.
That's right. Well, coming into this weekend, what are the big college games that stick out on the schedule for you this Saturday and leading up to the NFL as well?
Well, I like Louisville at home, plus the 3.5 over Clemson. Like I said, it took a fumble return for a touchdown with no time on the clock for Clemson to get their first cover in 2 years. They had failed to cover every game this year. And I put Clemson in the same class as the Kansas City Chiefs. Sometimes it's just so hard to accept the fall from grace when they've been so good for so long, but that's what's happened here. And I just think Clemson's going to have to reload and get after it. They're not going to a bowl game. Their season's pretty much over. I mean, they're sitting here, and granted, they're 5-3, and they got games against Louisville. Then they play UConn, and they finish with Wake Forest and South Carolina. So technically speaking, they're not going to beat Wake. That's not happening. So if they lose to Louisville and Wake beat UConn, they'll be 6-5. They'll finish 7-5. Now, here's the question: does Dabo Swinney, after playing the BCS for who knows how long, is going to accept a bowl bid to the Firestone Bowl in Charlotte, North Carolina? That'll be the $1 million question, guys. You want to go play a bowl game? These players are going to be like, bro, we've been at BCS the last 4 years. You really think we want to go play in some minor little bowl games? Screw that. We're going home. I like Louisville plus the points, and then I also like Wake Forest plus the 2.5 over North Carolina. Wake undefeated, put up 70 at Army. North Carolina's got no defense. High-scoring game, and I think at the end of the day, Wake Forest is a winning team. North Carolina figures out a way to lose games.
And who, as we like to talk about this each week, is who has impressed you as of late the last couple of weeks? Maybe somebody that has maybe turned things around from earlier in the season.
I wouldn't say turn things around, but Michigan State coming back in the fourth quarter to beat Michigan. And speaking of Wake, Kenneth Walker transferred from Wake to go to Michigan State, and now he's probably going to win the Heisman Trophy. They got a tough little game at Purdue, but I was really impressed with Michigan State and their resilience in that game. And if they get by Purdue, you're basically looking at a huge showdown down the road against the Buckeyes of Ohio State. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see as this Big Ten plays out where they're at, because for Michigan State, they finish at Ohio State next week after playing Maryland at home. So they still have Ohio State on the road and Penn State at home. So they're not out of the woods yet, but that was, for me, it's really going to be interesting down the stretch how this Big Ten plays out.
Now, the NFL got underway last night. The Colts victorious over the Jets. Most folks are as well. Brandon, what does that set the tone for the weekend NFL-wise?
I know Derrick Henry's out. You're getting value. I'll take the Titans plus the 7.5 over the Rams. I like the Bengals minus 2.5 over the Browns. And last but not least, you're going to tell me that you're the Las Vegas Raiders, and one of your teammates, your most likable teammates, probably one of the most likable guys on the team, is doing $157 on a side street in Vegas on Rainbow Boulevard, breaks to 127, hits the back of a Toyota RAV4, and kills a woman and his dog. NFL career over, probably going to spend 10 to 15 years in prison for murder. Vehicle manslaughter. Now you're going to tell me you've dealt with that for 4 days, you're going to get on a plane, you're going to fly to New York, and you're going to be 100% focused to play a football game. I just don't see it. Give me the Giants, plus the 3.5 over the Raiders.
That's right. And, of course, Brandon, want to make sure and remind folks about the latest episode of the podcast coming up as well.
Yeah, we're going to drop one finally. We've been off for a couple weeks, so people have been chomping at the bit. So the best damn sports betting pod, period. We got that going on. And, of course, BrandonLane.com, our handicapper's doing a great job. It's where you want to go to win.
That's right. Well, Brandon, always great to visit with you, sir. Here's to a successful weekend.
Yeah, you too, by the way, in your pool there, buddy. After being humble, you'll bounce back big.
Do you like this show and want to make one of your own? Well, let me tell you about Anchor. First off, it's free. There's even creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Be sure and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, in this segment, it is time for some nerd news, where we cover the most important news for your brain that you may have missed. Here's a quick rundown of this week in science. First off, a new study found that the biggest whales in the world eat about 3 times more than we thought. A single blue whale can consume 20 to 50 million calories a day, or the equivalent of 80,000 Big Macs. Second, in other animal news, 2 California condor chicks hatched from unfertilized eggs, so they can reproduce asexually without mating, which is something we didn't know. Third, In space news, astronauts grew peppers on the space station for the first time and used them to make tacos. And Sam Adams has a new limited edition beer called Spacecraft, made with hops that orbited the Earth on a SpaceX mission in September. And finally, a study found that if we got rid of daylight savings time, it might actually be bad for our health. Waking up when it's dark out isn't good for us. It messes with our sleep patterns, so if we didn't fall back this Sunday, our internal clock would be confused for 3 full months instead of a few days twice a year. Very excited to have the queen of Southern cuisine, Paula Deen, on the line with us. And first off, Paula, thank you so much for taking some time to be on the show.
Oh, Cameron, well, thank y'all for having me. I'm just thrilled to be dropping into Oklahoma.
Now, of course, talking about Positively Paula, it's available on Dish, U2 America, and streaming on Roku. And how much fun is it for you to be able to share your love of food with viewers and readers worldwide?
You know, Cameron, that's hard to put into words. You know, you never know. I stand in front of that camera and I look into that camera lens, but you never have any idea how many people you're affecting. And when I go out, when I'm in airports and people come up to me and say, "Oh gosh, Paula, you saved my life when I was going through chemo. You brought a smile to my face in a hard time." And, you know, so you just have no idea what is going on in people's lives that might be watching your show. And it's very humbling, very, very humbling. And, you know, it's my goal is to just ask people to sit back 30 minutes and forget everything that's aggravating them or stressful, and just sit back and relax and laugh and have a good time with me.
How important do you see food playing a role in people's happiness as well? I mean, it seems to bring back memories for so many.
Yes. Food is a common denominator between all mankind. You know, we all have to have to survive. And I know when my husband calls himself going on his diet, he's grumpy. He is grumpy. So food definitely can feed your soul as well as your belly. You know, it stirs up memories when people come to our restaurant. I know one day I walked down on the floor, Cameron, and a grown man, he was a little older than myself, and he was crying. I saw tears rolling down his face. And I walked over and I put my arm around him and I said, "Sir, are you all right? Is everything all right?" And he looked up at me and he said, "I thought I would never taste my mother's food again." And he said, "Come in here. I have tasted her food again, and I can't thank you enough for that gift." So, to me, that's powerful.
Do you have a particular maybe go-to recipe or a go-to comfort food that really sticks out, that is one of your favorites that you can always, like I said, it's your go-to, if you will?
Well, that would probably have to be fried chicken. And biscuits. I have out there the most incredible biscuit mix you've ever put in your mouth. And all you have to do is add buttermilk to it. And it makes biscuits that take you back to your great-grandmother. They are melt-in-your-mouth delicious biscuits. So that's definitely a go-to. I had the pleasure of having house guests this weekend that are from up north, and we were celebrating her last radiation therapy from breast cancer. And they had never really had a Southern meal, so I cooked country fried steak, rice and gravy, collard greens that I grew in the yard, fresh butter beans and okra, deviled egg, biscuits, and I served it along with the figs that I grew in my yard, fig preserves. And, of course, the eggs come from my chickens. And for dessert, I did a pear cobbler, and we grew the pears here. So that was so rewarding to me to be able to serve those new friends, a true Southern meal.
Do you find yourself getting nervous when you have to prepare? Like you said, they were from the North, hadn't really had a Southern meal. Do you still have nerves when you're in the kitchen cooking?
No. No. No, because unless they're from Mars, they're going to enjoy our Southern food, regardless of where they come from. Because it's mama's food.
Now, of course, you can watch Positively Paula, like we said, on Dish, on YouTube America, on streaming on Roku as well, and also you've got a new cookbook as well.
I do. 20 years ago, I self-published my first little cookbook, and it was out like 2 weeks when a big literary house out of New York came in and bought the rights to that book. And so there was only 5,000 in print, and it kind of rather quickly went on the endangered species list, you might say. And I know someone paid like $2,000 for one online. So it has been my dream for years to reproduce that cookbook and make it more available to other people that wanted it. So it's back, and it's called Favorite Recipes of the Lady and Her Friends, my very, very first cookbook. And we've got pictures of the cover that we did 20 years ago, and we've got an updated cover. And on the back there was a picture of the boys and me shot in front of this tree 20 years ago. Well, my son went back and found that tree, and we recreated that picture 20 years later. And it's just a great cookbook. It was good enough that it was bought, like I said, by a big house. And we realized, too, that a lot of the recipes didn't make it into the remake. So we were really happy about the opportunity, to reprint this.
That's right. Well, of course, excited to get a copy of that one. I'm the cook in our house, so I've followed a lot of your recipes. Appreciate.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I am, and I tell you, I appreciate your smile and the way that you truly bring happiness to so many people. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Well, thank you, Cameron. And like I said, I so appreciate you having me in. And, I just want to take the opportunity to send everybody love and best dishes out there.
Well, daylight saving time ends this Sunday morning at 2 a.m. The good news is that you gain an hour and get an extra hour of sleep that night. The bad news is that it's more clock changing, and Americans, we're over it. In a new poll, 63% of people want to eliminate daylight saving time forever. Just 16% want it to continue, and 21% aren't sure. Probably because they don't remember why we're even doing it in the first place. Now, the idea ages ago was to align waking hours to daylight hours, but with technological advances and globalization, it has seemingly become more disruptive than beneficial. And get this, Democrats and Republicans, they agree. Exactly 67% of both parties would cancel the clock changing, while just about 15% of both want to keep it. And a majority of every age group wants daylight savings time tossed, except young people ages 30 and under, where only 42% agree. Now, for what it's worth, if daylight saving time did stop, 48% of people would prefer that we keep the word spring forward hours for a later sunset.
Can't say enough how excited I am to have Norman Lear on the phones with us this morning. And first off, Mr. Lear, it is great to have the chance to visit with you this morning.
Thank you. I just love being here.
Now, got a new American Masters that's going to premiere nationwide coming up on Tuesday, October 25th on PBS. And as PBS has been doing these, I think this is number 28 in the series. And to be involved with that and to have them come to you and want to do a celebration of your career, what is that like to know that they took the time and wanted to include you into that?
Well, they not only took the time, but they had two remarkable women, Rachel Grady and Heidi Ewing, to produce and direct. And when I met these women who had already done a half a dozen documentaries that over the years, I just adored. These women are considerably younger than I, but they have been at it, that is, making documentaries for some years. And I was just thrilled with their ideas and their plans. And I think what your audience will see is a kind of life story. They on film, they haven't. It's fresh. It's extremely ingenious and very different from anything I've ever seen.
And it's
my life, but it's their film.
That's right. It's just another version of you. And Norman, you've been involved with so many groundbreaking series that to have your hands on, and back in the 70s and early 80s, and to see those still being fresh and relevant today as well. You kind of push the boundaries, and I wonder if maybe that's something that folks need to be doing a little bit more of.
Well, if I push the boundaries in those shows, wait till you see what Grady and Ewing, the boundaries they pushed in making this film. It's not like any other biography I've seen, and I couldn't be prouder of it.
And like we said, pushing boundaries. And actually, it was, I know that you kind of took a step back from television production for several years and got into some other works as well that I know that are near and dear to your heart, that you actually have gone out and pursued other ventures as well. And tell the listeners, if they didn't know where you went, obviously you had some things that you were pushing for as well.
It started when I was a kid, as you will see in the film, or as you may have read in my book. My father went to prison when I was 9 years old, and it was at the same time that a guy by the name of Father Coughlin, a priest with a major radio audience who was politically crazed, I think, and he was he was very racially unsound and anti-Semitic. So I'm a Jewish kid, 9 years old. My dad is gone, and this guy is telling me the world hates Jews. And my saving grace was in public school. They had civics lessons. And I was learning about a Constitution, a Bill of Rights, a Declaration of Independence that said, no, that is not the American way. The American way doesn't say you're a good or a bad Christian, depending on your political point of view, or that you have to be a Christian to get to heaven. That we are all God's children. Anyway, I took that. I needed it so, and it was there for me. And kids don't have that anymore, and it hurts like hell. And I fight every way I can to get civics back, to learn what really is important about our country, those promises we've made to one another about our mutual safety and soundness. So long as we are Americans, we're not equal runners, and we're not equally pretty, and we're not. But under the law, we enjoy the same safeguards.
And how important was that as producing the shows that you were involved in, the Jeffersons, Maude, the Sanford and Son as well, to show the diversity, but also the opportunity that we should all receive as well?
Right. Well, that's basically what all those shows were about. They were about family, love of family, closeness of family, and but that family includes the family of man. And if the shows were about anything, it was about our common humanity. You know, the title of my film comes from my bumper sticker, which has for some years read, "Just another version of you." Because that's the way I feel. We are versions of one another.
That is right. And Norman, how important do you think it is? I know that we've come a long ways, but I know there's still a lot of work to be done in diversity of all aspects of life as well.
Well, I think we've taken a few steps back where racial harmony, when you take a look at what has happened with the LGBT community, the giant steps this country has taken to insist that part of our community is as safe as any other part of the community under the law. But we haven't succeeded in our economics, in our housing, in our humanity, in making skin color not matter, in making ethnicity not matter. We are human beings, all of us, and some of us are Americans, and we need to treasure both in a common way.
That's right. Now, a lot of folks may not realize that you are actually still working as an executive producer and actually have a new reimagined Latino version of One Day at a Time that's going to be out on Netflix coming up in January as well.
January 6th. This being a new era, Netflix, at 12:01 in the morning across the globe, this show will appear, and all 13 of them. So by Wednesday, they will know how many people may have binged and watched all 13. Ready now for a new year.
That is right. That is right. And you talk about the streaming services, and actually that has allowed me to teach my 11-year-old, who is an avid Sanford and Son fan, and that just absolutely loves that. And it allows you to get to some of your work out to an extremely different audience than before.
I love that 11-year-old because I loved Fred Sanford. If he made if he makes this kid laugh, I think that's the gifts of gifts. I'm 94 years old because I've laughed all my life. I'm so confident of that.
That's right. And again, the new American Masters, Norman Lear, Just Another Version of You, premieres Tuesday, October 25th on PBS, and also going to be available on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital HD as well that day. And Norman, it has truly been my honor and privilege to visit with you this morning. Looking forward to the upcoming documentary. And again, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, Cameron. You didn't enjoy it one bit more than I did.
Turkey is synonymous with Thanksgiving, but let's be honest, the sides are what make the meal. But what if you could only have one side? Which would you choose? Well, someone pored over Google Trends data to put together a breakdown of the most popular Thanksgiving side dishes in each state. And not surprisingly, people love their potatoes. Mashed potatoes were number one in 9 states. Baked potatoes were number one in 3, and 6 more had variations like hash brown casserole, sweet potato casserole, and cauliflower mashed potatoes, which was the number one side in Delaware. Now, rolls were number one in 4 states. Green beans and collard greens topped the list in 3 states apiece, and stuffing was also number one in 3 states, which seems low. Now, other number one sides include charcuterie trays, macaroni and cheese, creamed corn, cornbread, stuffed mushrooms, salad, gravy, and Glazed Carrots, which were number 1 in Rhode Island.
Meatloaf on the line with us. And first off, Meatloaf, thank you so much for taking some time to be on the show.
Oh, no problem. I said to you before we started, Flashback Friday, am I a flashback? And you said I'm a flashback. And I want to know why you are a flashback.
Because the music that brings me back to my day was the 80s, the 70s, the early 90s. And so that's
yes, okay, then you're a flashback.
That is right. That is right. And I know you got...
Except for, I'm really not a flashback because we just put out a great record called Braver Than We Are that is completely different than anything else that's out there. And we did it on purpose. We started doing the stuff like we did on Bat 2 or Bat Out of Hell and things. And I said to Jim, this is boring. And I want to do something completely different like we did on Bat. And he totally agreed. And that's what we did. And I said, well, people are either going to love this record or they're going to hate it. And people love it, and I get other people that write to me, this record sucks. And I take the time to write them back and say, you know what? You heard the record, but you didn't listen to it. So I would recommend to you that you listen to it 4 times. And by the 4th time, you're going to change your mind.
And what is it about the new album that you think touches such a chord with the listeners?
You know what? I can't explain it. But I know because I literally have heard this record. I still listen to it, and it's been out since September. There's something there. It got sprinkled with fairy dust somehow. It is magical, and it will literally, like the Wizard of Oz, take you, if you give it the time and you give it, you know, people want everything easy. This is not an easy record. It wasn't easy to do. It's something that you have to listen to. Once you hear it and once you get on that journey, on that road, you're going to love it. But there's just a lot of people that go, oh, it sucks. And I'm just going, well, you want an instant gratification. And I'm not the artist that's going to give you that.
And what is it about I think that's exactly right about the new listeners out there with social media, the internet and everything. Everybody's looking for something that's going to grab them right away. As you have progressed in your music over the years, what have you learned from your previous recording processes that you added to Braver Than We Are and put yourself so much on the line with it?
Well, I put myself on the line really with Hang Cool Teddy Bear, Hell in the Handbasket, Braver Than We Are. I'm always wanting to change. I'm like a painter. I want to find a new subject to paint. I don't want to, you know, a painter would never, a real artist would never paint the same flower over and over again. And I think that's why I like Bruno Mars, because you never know what he's going to do. You literally never know what he's going to do.
That is right.
And I like that. You know, back in the old days, you know what the Cream was going to do. You knew what Hendrix was going to do. You didn't always know what Joplin was going to do. But I have always wanted to be... I'm at heart an actor. So you have to have a different character. You're in a different play. You're a different character. You're a different human. And so I've taken that into the records. Every song is a character. This entire record was sung as a 19-year-old. Because the first song is the first song that Jim Steinman ever wrote when he was 19. So when we started the record once, we threw it out, we started again. I said, I didn't tell Jimmy, I didn't tell anybody. And I didn't want this record to have tracks. And I was forced to. And I was forced to by Spotify. And then Spotify doesn't even have it on their little playlist. So as soon as I finish all these today, I've got a conference call with my managers, and I want to know what the hell's going on. So I wanted this to be one continuous piece of music. And he said, and I went out and met with the president of Apple, of iTunes, and he said, I got to have tracks. I said, you got Mozart on here? He goes, yeah, probably. I said, well, he didn't have tracks. You're going to call in and tell him to get tracks? And he laughed. And he said, yeah, but you're here and you need tracks. So I want to do the record over and make it what I wanted it to be, was a symphony. I'm a different artist. I want to be as original and as different every time as possible.
That's right. And the new album, Braver Than We Are by Meatloaf. And, of course, Meatloaf, they can always...
different and unusual.
That is right. That is right. Now, where can people keep up with information about not only the album, but also if you're going to be around the local area as well? Where can they find more information on touring?
Well, okay. We weren't going to talk about health, but I had spinal fusion. And it is a bitch. And I try not to take painkillers unless the pain is like sending me to the roof. But with that, I'm in pain constantly, and I have 6 months of rehab to go through. So I'm like I had to cancel 2 tours. I'm supposed to be on tour in Europe right now. And it's like I'm beside myself. I have been working constantly since 1967 until we were on tour in Canada. And it became so painful, my back in Canada, that the last 3 shows, I have no idea how I did them. I have no idea how I walked out there. And I felt horrible for the audience. I mean, I could sing, but it was like I couldn't move like I like to move. And I was in tears at the end of shows because I felt I'd let the audience down, and I can't stand that. I can't stand letting the audience down. The audience is the audience and the fans are the most important. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
That is right.
I know that.
That is right.
And I'm a plumber. I'm their plumber. That's how people go, what do you do? I go, I'm a plumber. And I come and I fix your pipe. I fix your pipe good. I give you a fair price. And when you got to mess something else, then you call me again. Well, that's why I've been able to sell out, every show. There's very few, maybe 10 shows in, well, not 40 years, but 39 and a half years that have not been sold out.
Well, Meatloaf, again, I appreciate your time and look forward to, I know the healing will take place. I know exactly what you're going through. Thoughts and prayers to you as you go through that. And again, check out the new album, Braver Than We Are. Meatloaf, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for having me on Flashback.
Now, this is one of those stories where drugs had to be involved, right? A postal worker in Bridgeport, Connecticut was out delivering mail on Monday when a 56-year-old guy named Wilson Ortiz robbed her. Now, he walked up to her mail truck and pulled a gun, but he didn't want the mail she was delivering or even her wallet. All he wanted was rubber bands. Now, he told her to give him all the rubber bands she had. Now, mail carriers have lots of them apparently, and the post office uses them to keep our mail organized before it's delivered. Now, she was worried he might shoot her, so she didn't ask questions. She just gave him a big handful, and he took off on foot. There was also a teenage boy with him, but it doesn't sound like he's in any trouble. Well, cops tracked Wilson down nearby and knew they had their man because he had a big wad of rubber bands wrapped around one of his wrists. They also found a small amount of PCP in his pocket. Now he's facing charges for robbery, possession of a controlled substance, and child endangerment.
Ken Jeong from Dr. Ken. And first off, Ken, thanks for taking some time again this week.
Thanks, Cameron. I just kind of wanted to share this week's episode with you, and thank you for always being so cool.
Well, I tell you, the episode coming up, I know that this is near and dear to your heart as well, the storyline. And share with the folks just a little bit. The episode is actually called Dickie Wexler's Last Show. And what was the inspiration behind the writing of this episode?
Well, I'm one of the writers and exec producers of Dr. Ken, as you just said, and this is my favorite episode of the series, and also one of my favorite things I've ever done in my career. This is based on my experiences as a real-life doctor taking care of patients with cancer, also based on my wife's fight against breast cancer. I'm proud to say she's 7 years cancer-free, and it's even more universal than that. It wasn't written by me, this episode, and this episode also, the writer of this episode also used his own experiences in this particular episode, and that's what I like about it. It's not just like a Ken Jeong personal journey. It really is. You feel like it's written for everybody, and this is Ken's favorite patient in the show is a old school Friars Club comedian named Dickie Wexler, kind of a Don Rickles kind of a guy who has a big show coming up to perform, and his cancer has returned, and Ken has to deal with telling him he can't, while Dickie's in the hospital bed, you can't do that show, but also Ken knowing that his condition is terminal and he may not come out, he may not survive very long, and so it's a very touching episode. But the fact that the character is a old school stand-up comic, there's still great jokes, and there's a lot of comedy to be had at the same time where there's a lot of tragedy, and the blending of the comedy and the tragedy, and it makes for such a heartfelt, genuine, emotional episode that it became bigger than what I thought it would be. What I wanted was something kind of a personal story that has become even more universal and touching. So if anyone has a loved one with cancer, anyone with cancer, they will understand this episode, and it's for them. And it's really, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever been a part of in my career. And just grateful to the writer Eric Summers, the showrunner Mike Sikowitz, and the actor playing Dickie Wexler named George Weiner. It really was just such a moving experience, basically just had to call and tell you about it.
There you go. And of course, dealing with cancer, well, one of the things so many, when they're dealing with that, dealing with the depression, dealing with the unknowns, but this show also gives an opportunity, like you said, to bring in a little bit of humor and to bring in a smile, a laugh, or anything that you can do for somebody dealing with cancer that can play such a physical role for them as well.
Yeah, and what I liked about it, the Ken's patient's clearly suffering, and then, there's a moment where Ken's listening to kind of an old album of his act, and, so there's genuine moments and tears are being shed while there's hooker and Vegas jokes, so it's really, there are moments that are, the fact that the episode itself is genuinely funny and some just great jokes, great moments of comedy, plus the emotional telling of the story. It just, because there are great jokes in the episode, it just makes it that much more that much more touching. It's like the heart of it. It's like the heart of the jokes are. The more you cry, it's kind of amazing.
That's right, and of course, Dr. Ken, we've told you 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 local time on ABC. Dr. Ken, and Ken, I tell you, I enjoy having you on each and every time. I love your heart and the way you put yourself out there as well. And as a doctor yourself, and going through these experiences, did that bring back some memories for you that made this episode maybe a little bit more difficult as well?
Yeah, it did, and not just as a spouse of a cancer survivor, but just because dealing with patients, with cancer and patients who have passed away from cancer. Every day during rehearsal, I was crying. So it was a difficult one.
Well, I know the last week when we talked, I asked you for some insight on Dave. Well, Dave gave me a little insight on you as well last week when I spoke to him, and I didn't realize, but you're kind of like the show starter. You're the guy that gets up there, and you're like the stand-up comic as to kind of bring the live audience to life.
Yeah, every taping I go out before we begin, and I talk to the audience. I get up there in the audience stands, and I basically warm up the crowd and get them going, and it's it's a lot of fun. And Dave also will participate in it from time to time. Both he and I will come up on stage together. So, again, Dave Foley, one of my comedy heroes, and also I'm proud to say one of my good friends. He's just a good person. That's great,
and like we've said so many times before, a great cast, and you can see the camaraderie. It comes across on the screen as well, and most definitely an episode you don't want to miss. Tomorrow evening, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 local time. Dickie Wexler's last show on Dr. Ken on ABC. And Ken Jeong, it is always great to visit with you. And don't make it so long until we talk again.
Yes, sir. Thanks again. Thanks, Cameron. Thank you. Thanks so much for the love and support, and then also just the genuine conversations we have, because I do believe in just in life, not just in radio and TV. Conversation's a lost art, and I just appreciate you being so cool.
Now, believe it or not, there are people who really enjoy exercising, but for the rest of us, it would be a dream to never have to work out again. So what would you be willing to give up to never have to work out again? In a new poll, 34% said that they would hand wash all their dirty dishes for the rest of their life. Now, okay, that's rough, but I'm definitely considering. Now, 33% said that they'd stay with the in-laws for a long weekend. 29% said they'd reconnect with a high school bully. 25% said that they would text an ex. And 25% said they'd cancel Netflix for a year. Now, is it just me, or do all those things seem kind of like sweet deals? Even if you like exercising, you might be enticed.
None other than Charlie Daniels himself with us. First off, Charlie, I can't say enough how much I appreciate you taking some time to be on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, my friend. Good to talk to you again.
It has been a couple years since we visited. Last time, I think my son was about 8. Well, he's almost 21, so it's been a few years, but I tell you, you have been staying hard at it and love the new CD. Got a copy of it last week. And what was working on this new project? What was that like for you, Charlie?
Well, it was a culmination of a long time of collecting songs. I wanted to do a working cowboy album as opposed to the movie version of Cowboy that everybody's so familiar with. Cowboys are really not gunslingers, and that they don't glow in the dark like the movies seem to make them. There's sure enough culture that goes on out in the West with these big ranches that they have cowboys that take care of the cattle, and I wanted to write an album. I wanted to do an album about their life and their work. And so it took me a lot of years to find enough songs in that genre to be able to do it. But when I finally did, I got around to getting it done, and we named it after one of my favorite tunes on the album, which is called Nighthawk.
And like you said, you've been collecting songs for so long. And how long has it been in the works for you?
I really don't remember exactly because it's not been something I just kind of, really consciously thought about. I just always knew that one of these days when I got enough songs to do it, I was going to do an album, and I just kind of would grab one and put it back and kind of forget about it. But I'm going to say 10 or 15 years probably that I've been, just grabbing a song off when I'd hear one and I didn't want something that had been recorded to death for the most part. We did a few fairly familiar songs on it, like Ghost Riders in the Sky and that sort of thing, but most of them are, some of them actually are a little bit obscure that have not really been done before. So it was just an idea this time had come. We finally got around to getting it done.
That's right. And of course, Charlie, being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame as well. And what does that mean to you whenever you look at your career and the effect that you've had on other artists as well to be recognized with that induction?
It's hard to even articulate that. I've not really assimilated it in my life yet. It's like when the president of CMA told me that I was going to be inducted, I literally had to stop and think, did she really say what I thought she did? Did she actually say I was going to be inducted in the Country Music Hall of Fame? It took me a little time just to grasp it, and I'm still kind of there. It's just such an incredible honor. It's a lot of times I never knew if it would even happen at all. I never knew certainly if it would ever happen during my lifetime. So it's a double blessing. I'm very thankful. The good Lord has blessed me with this tremendous blessing.
And it's also offered you an opportunity and a platform, if you will, to do so much for others, not only in the music industry, but also you've got the Volunteer Jam coming up as well, and going to be kind of along the lines of a big birthday that you got coming up as well.
Well, it definitely is along the lines of a big birthday. I'll be 80 years old, actually, in October. But we decided to do the jam this year. This is the 45th anniversary of the Volunteer Jam, and we decided to do it. So we decided that, what the heck, you're only 81, so we'll just extend the birthday time and go ahead and celebrate the birthday at the same time. So that's what we're doing. Volunteer Jam / 80th birthday party.
And for so many people to have taken up the cause with you as well, what does that mean for you to be able to impact other people's lives and have so many artists that have come in to join along with you?
Well, we've had everybody, I say everybody, we've almost everybody in the music business at one time that's been there very long has been to the Volunteer Jam, and this year it's incredible lineup. We got Larry the Cable Guy, we've got Chris Stapleton and Kid Rock and Travis Tritt, and I said, who am I missing? We just added Luke Bryan. We've got some other folks that we're going to be adding as we go along. It's going to be a whale of a show. It's going to be as good a show as we have ever done in all these 42 years, and I am extremely looking forward to it.
And Charlie, whenever you see the folks that are lining up to join in with that, like you said, the Luke Bryan, the Kid Rocks, Larry Cable Guy, your music has touched so many lives in so many ways, and for you to have that impact across so many genres, did you ever have any idea that the music you were putting out was going to have that kind of effect?
Well, I never knew, you kind of play your music and kind of see where it lands, see what it does. And of course, I never looked at my career so much. I wanted longevity. I wanted to be around for a long time because I enjoy what I do so much. But I never really thought about, gosh, I'm going to be doing this when I'm 80 years old. You don't think about that when you're 35. But now that it has gone that far, I will tell you how I feel. I feel very, very humble. The night that I was inducted in the Grand Ole Opry, I told the crowd, the Bible says God will give you the desires of your heart. You have seen that come true on this stage tonight because it is one of the deep desires of my heart to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry, and it happened. And that's kind of the same thing here. It's another blessing the good Lord has seen fit to bestow on me, and I am extremely thankful for it.
And obviously one of the biggest hits and the one that probably known for more than any, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, is a favorite of so many. Is that one of your personal favorites, or I always like to ask an artist what one of their personal favorites is?
Well, how could it not be? Yeah, I like that song a lot. I get, people say, don't you get tired of playing it? No, I don't. I get a chance to play it better tonight than I did last night, and better tomorrow night than I did tonight, and I've never played perfect yet. So, I love playing all our songs, even the ones we've been playing for 30 years. I still enjoy playing them every night.
And Charlie, who was it whenever you were getting started? Was there anybody that really had an influence into what you became as an artist and as a songwriter as well?
There were a lot of people. There were so many people. When I came along, I was born in 1936, and radio stations weren't near as many as there are now. They were not formatted for one kind of music. They played every kind of music. They played country music and the popular music today, which at one time was big bands, and of course gospel. I got the blues, being from the Southeast. I got a smattering of all of it. And then about the time that Elvis and Carl Perkins and those guys started coming along, we got the rock type stuff. So I was exposed to so many different kinds of music when I came along. I'd be hard pressed to name one person, that had actually had a huge impact on me. But I would have to say, I think Elvis Presley has had an impact on everybody who's come along since he started.
I think that's right. And again, the new album, Nighthawk, is available. And Charlie, I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell folks where they can pick up the new album as well.
Well, you should be able to pick it up at the stores. If you can't, just go to charliedaniels.com, our website, and we've got everything you ever wanted to know about Charlie Daniels, and probably some things you don't even care about on there.
That's right. Well, Charlie, I tell you, it has always been a privilege to visit with you. Always have a great time, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.
Well, thanks again for joining us for this 146th episode of Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, a question, anything else you'd like to know, you can hit me up on the contact page at gqwithcam.com. You can also find me on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at GQWithCam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, you can visit our merch store where we've got hoodies, shirts, tumblers, mugs, stickers, and more. gqwithcam.com/shop. And if you have a special guest idea, you can email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Well, thanks again to our good friend Brandon Allen for coming up with our theme music. We're going to let him play us out and hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Thanks for joining us and sharing some great memorable interviews that I've had the great privilege to do